This week I'll show you how to control shadows on people's faces.
Adorama TV presents Exploring Photography with Mark Wallace, where you will learn innovative techniques on shooting a wide range of photography. Here's your host, Mark Wallace.
Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Exploring Photography right here on Adorama TV. I'm Mark Wallace and I'm joined today by Shonda. Shonda's going to be helping me out. Now, one of the questions I get all the time is about shadows on the face of a model, and the problem that people are experiencing and writing to me about is if you have a light coming from this side, you get a shadow on the other side of the face. And the thing that people are doing is adding a second light to try to get rid of that shadow, and it's just causing all kinds of problems. And so I want to show you that. So right behind me, Shonda, let's have you sit on that stool. You can see that I have two lights right here. I've got one light, two lights, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this first light as our key light. In other words, the light that I want to illuminate Shonda with. And so I've already metered all this stuff, and I've got my PocketWizard Plus 3s on here, and those allow me to turn these lights on and off independent of each other. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to just trigger this first light and show you the problem that we're running into, and then we'll go into the way that some people are trying to fix that problem, and I'll show you that's absolutely the wrong way to fix it. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to shoot with my key light, so Shonda looks straight ahead. All right, so we take that picture, and you can see that we have on the opposite side of our key light, we have shadows all over Shonda's face. And what some people are saying is, well, I just want to add a second light as a fill light to get rid of those shadows. Now, what happens when we do that? So I'm going to turn on that second light over there. I'm going to take another picture, and again, look straight ahead. I'll take this picture. And now what we see is, well, we got two shadows. Instead of just one shadow, we have two shadows. Why is that? Well, let's take a closer look at this picture, and I'll explain why one shadow becomes two, and then I'll tell you how to fix the problem. When we add light from the left side of her face, I'll make this a yellow arrow here. That's an arrow. What's happening is the light's falling on almost all of Shonda's face. So it's coming over here. The light's being blocked by her cheekbone, but we're getting light all over her face, except for right here where the nose, her nose, is blocking that light. That's what causes that shadow. But I'm going to cover or fill this in with these yellow stripes here, so this will make this a little bit easier to understand in a second here. So we've got light that's falling on almost all of Shonda. We've got it down here on her neck, but then we have these areas that are in shadow. Let me color those in green. So we've got these green areas here that are, we'll call those shadows, and it comes all the way down here. Now these shadows are created because the light is being blocked by her nose and by her cheekbone, and the thinking is we can add a light on the other side that will just fill that in and get rid of those shadows. So let's take a look at what happens. When we add a light from this side, we're thinking, yeah, it's going to fill this in right here where that shadow is. It's going to fill in where the nose shadow is, and it's going to get rid of all that. We'll get nice even light. But that's not what happens. What happens is, yeah, we do get light there, and so these shadowed areas are going to be lighter, but also we get light in all of these other areas because we're going to get light on the majority of Shonda's face, just like we did before. So all of this stuff gets brighter, except for right over here. We're still going to get shadows because her cheekbone is going to block that. And right on this area here, we're going to have another shadow because no light is going there. So let me color that in green. And so you see right here, we get another shadow. So these shadows here, the one on this side and the one on this side, are still going to be there. They're just going to be lighter shadows. We're also going to have no light over here from the red light, the light coming from this side. But because that's not being duplicated, we're just going to get a nice fill. So these areas where we only get light from one side and not the other, it's going to do what we think. It's going to lighten those shadows and leave everything else alone. But where the nose is, we're adding light to both sides, to this side and to this side, and we're blocking light on both sides. So we're just going to have two bright shadows, two very light shadows. And let's take a look at that right now. You can see that's what happens when we add that second light. So here's our picture with both lights on, and sure enough, here's a shadow right here. That's caused from the light coming from this side, and then we have a shadow right here. That's caused from the light coming from this side. But everything else in here is just brighter, a little bit more luminous, but we still have these areas here that have shadows because they are areas that light is being blocked by Shonda's nose. So we've got to figure out how to get light into these areas without also getting light into the other areas. How can we do that so we just fill in these shadowy areas and leave everything else alone? Well, let's take a look at how we can do just that. All right, well, now that we know about the problem and why adding a second light is not the best solution to that problem, how can we solve that issue? Well, what I've done right behind me is you can see that I've moved the position of the light. What most people try to do is they try to finesse that second light and do all kinds of things to just spill enough light in to get rid of that shadow, but that's really never going to work. What you really need to do is fix the key light, and you can do that in a number of ways. So the first thing that you can do is you can move that key light more on axis with the camera, and what that's going to do is it's going to move the shadow on Shonda's face, and so we eliminate that nose shadow by doing that, because if you really just want to have a shadowless portrait, then that's what you need to do. You need to have on-axis light. But that's going to create another problem. So let me shoot one photo really quickly here, and I'll show you exactly what we get. So we have this photo right here, and as expected, we have a great shot of Shonda. However, look at the background. We have this big nasty shadow on the background. So we fixed the shadow on her face and created a secondary problem. The solution to that is get your model away from the background, illuminate your background separately from your model. That's a totally different subject that we don't have time to talk about today, but that's one way to fix the shadow on the face. Just put that on axis and that'll get rid of it, but again, it's going to create another problem on the back. Well, the other thing you might be wanting to do is leave that shadow there, but just make it a little bit less noticeable. So what you're really talking about then is changing your light source from a hard light source to a soft light source, and we can do that by adding a softbox or an umbrella. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the light back where it was originally. I'm going to add a light modifier, and we'll show you the results of a softer light source. All right, well, now that we've talked about on-axis light, let's talk about adding a different light modifier to keep some of those shadows but make them a little bit more subtle, a little bit softer. Now, you might be thinking that we need a bunch of different lights and things, but really the answer to this is positioning our lights and using a really simple setup. So what I've done here is I have a softbox. This is a 2x3 softbox. It's sort of a medium softbox. And that is back a little bit where we started, but now we have a larger source of light, so that light is going to be softer. It's going to wrap around Shonda. And then on the other side, instead of adding a second light, what I'm doing is I'm adding a reflector. What that's going to do is it's just going to reflect light onto the other side of her face. And so we still get a little bit darker side over here. Not very, it's very, very subtle, but we get nice soft light. We're still going to have a shadow by her nose, but it's going to be a really nice soft shadow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a picture really fast and show you exactly what this looks like. So Shonda, looks straight ahead. There you go, perfect. All right, and now when we look at that, we can still see that we have sort of that hint of Rembrandt lighting, the shadows on the side of her face, but those shadows are much softer, much more pleasing, and we don't have as many background light problems. We don't have that big blocky shadow back there, which means that we could add maybe a second light or a speed light or something to fix the background, maybe add some color, put it on a set, do whatever you'd like, and it's a very, very simple setup. So let's take a look at our before and our after shots. You can see in our before shot, we have all kinds of nasty shadows. Adding that second light just makes it worse. By changing the position of our light, we can eliminate those shadows, but we get a nasty shadow on the background. So the solution is really nice soft light, a really simple reflector, and we get the results that we have on this shot. Well, thank you so much for helping me out today, Shonda. This was a really simple lesson, but it really helps you underscore the point, which is keep it simple. And so if you run into a lighting setup and you're getting shadows that you don't like, the thing that you shouldn't do is start adding extra lights to get rid of those shadows, because you're just going to be causing yourself problems by adding light in places that it shouldn't be. The best thing to do is start working with just your key light and nothing else. Start moving that key light to see what position of light will do for you. And if that doesn't get you where you want to be, then start modifying that light, making it a larger light source, moving it closer to your subject using maybe a softbox or an umbrella, and you'll find that you'll get much better results. Now, I know we did this really, really quickly, but the reason we did that, there are many tutorials on position of light, light modifiers, lighting setups, and you can find all of those at the Adorama Learning Center. We have hundreds of videos. And if you're curious about the light modifiers I use, these soft boxes that are right behind me, well, you can find links right here on YouTube if you're watching, right in the description of the video. You can click on those and find all the gear that was used in today's episode. And of course, you can zip over to the Adorama Learning Center to see more reviews about the gear that we use today. So check that out. I forgot, wait, don't go yet. Make sure you click subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Sorry for scaring you. All right, now I'm gonna go, bye. Start modifying the light with different light black fudge.
Want to get the most out of your Adorama photography equipment? Visit our Learning Center where you can read popular articles, how-to tips, buying guides, and product reviews.